Hello, all, and good afternoon. I welcome you all at the sixth edition of the monthly webinar series with universities on igniting young minds for rejuvenating rivers, presented by Namami Ganga, Minister of Jal Shakti, Government of India, and organized by Apeejay News Network. I welcome all of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. And today we have got special guests from NMCG and from various universities of the country. Let me first introduce to all of you. We have with us Mr. S.R. Meena, Deputy Director General of National Mission for Clean Ganga, Ministry of Jal Shakti, Government of India. We welcome Mr. Meena. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're also joined by Mr. Aditya Berlia, co-promoter of Apeejay Education, New Delhi. Welcome, Mr. Aditya. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're also joined by Dr. Sujata Sahi, Vice Chancellor, IILM University, Gurugram. We welcome Dr. Sujata. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're also joined by Professor Naveen Singhal, Dean and Coordinator, Center of Excellence, Law and Land, Air and Water, DIT University, Dehradun. We welcome Professor Naveen Singhal. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will also be joined by Dr. Shrihari Prakash Honwad, President of Sir Padampat Singhania University from Udaipur. And we are also joined by young minds, as the name suggests, from various universities. We are joined by Akanksha Mittal from Chitkara University, Isha Kullar from Chitkara Business School, Sneha Jaju from Apeejay University, and Hiya Bhattacharya from Apeejay Satya University. As you all know, that this webinar has been aimed at bringing the best of the mind from the university ecosystem, not only the university leaders, but the young minds, the students. What are their takes on this very important topic of rejuvenating rivers? And the theme of this monthly webinar series is wastewater management. Particularly this edition, we'll be focusing on the importance of wastewater management, especially if you talk about Ganga rejuvenation. And there, the importance of wastewater management is very important. How sustainable those wastewater treatments are, wastewater management is, and what are the thoughts of the young minds of this country, what are the thoughts of the university leaders, and of course, what are the thought of NMCG. We'll have everything here today for next 1 hour. But before we start the session, let's have the Ganga anthem on screen, please.
भगवती तव तीरे नीरमात्रशनोऽहम् विगत विषय तृष्णा कृष्णमाराधयामि विगत विषय तृष्णा कृष्णमाराधयामि सकल कलुषभङ्गे स्वर्ग सोपान संगे सकल कलुषभङ्गे स्वर्ग सोपान संगे तरल तर तरङ्गे देवी गंगे प्रसीदा 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 नमामि गंगे नमामि गंगे नमामि गंगे नमामि गंगे स्वर्ग की परछाइयाँ दिखती तेरे आंचल तले माँ तेरी हर बूंद में बहती हुई ममता मिले तू हथेली तन पे फेरे मन को भी निर्मल करे। जिस तरह को तू छुए जीवन से उसको सींच दे। लेके आया हर कोई बस पाप तुझको सौंपने। फिर भी तू बहती चले सबको लगा करके गले। स्वाद अमृत का तुझे ही चूम कर जाना। प्रसीद 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 प्रसीद। नमामि गंगे 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 नमामि गंगे। पानी जो तेरा खारा तेरे आंसू की धारा कैसे मैं देखूं संतान हो। माना है तुझे माँ ये धर्म है मेरा। मैं तुझे तेरा वो सम्मान दूं। नमामि
फिर भी तू बहती चले नमामि गंगे. What a beautiful anthem, and what a beautiful representation of the flow of river Ganga. It also shows the flow of life itself, as the song has said on its own. So without taking much time, I'll request Sri S.R. Meena, GDG and MCG, to give the opening remark for this edition of the webinar on Igniting Young Minds, Rejuvenating Rivers. Over to you, sir.
Yes. As you all aware that it's a 6th edition of webinar series with the university colleges, and we gathered here today to share our thoughts and on the importance of water conservation and river rejuvenation. And I think you are well aware about Namami Gange things that pollution. It's a Namami Gange research pollution abatement, conservation and rejuvenation of river Ganga and its tributaries. Not only has it focused on treatment of water, wastewater, but also on preserving the ecology and biodiversity of river Ganga, especially emphasis on being given to wetland conservation and spring rejuvenation. I think you people are all aware about these things. I am very new. For you, it's a 6th series, but for me, first. So I think we should share our thoughts about this webinar. So kindly start and
Right.
share.
Thank you so much, Mr. S.R. Meena, for giving your opening remarks. So let's hear the perspective of the universities on especially a subject of wastewater management, how that awareness can be created in the young minds. So we have with us Mr. Aditya Berlia, co-promoter of Apeejay Education, New Delhi. We welcome Mr. Berlia. Your thoughts in this particular subject, that what can be done to create this awareness on the wastewater management for rejuvenating rivers, and how can universities and government can come together, how the citizens, young minds can come together to make a difference. Your thoughts on that, sir?
Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. I'm actually deeply passionate about this subject. I'm going to try to keep my remarks short. Otherwise, I could go on and on like a classic academician for hours on the subject. I'm very grateful for APAC to put this together. Meenaji, thank you so much for joining us. I had met you earlier in your old portfolio at the...
in petroleum. Yeah.
as well. I'm deeply excited to see our young, wonderful students coming in from all over. And of course, I'm partially biased to my own. Heya and Sneha, very warm welcome. And I want to leave time to hear from you. I worked on this when I was the chairman of CII Delhi for the last year, and before it as vice chairman. And I'm going to try to bucket it into 3-4 small, simple things. First, I think we all need to recognize and we need to explain to people the sheer impact and transformative nature that having a clean Ganga has. It's not just about a deeply held spiritual sense. And I love the ad. It's absolutely beautiful. It almost brought tears to my eyes. I really loved, the emotional message it came out. But also in terms from building communities, ecologies, tourism, economies, development, having a beautiful riverbank. If we see every other country across the world, there's massive economic development for everybody involved in the project. And we are very fortunate in India to have such a beautiful river, which impacts so many people across the country and can genuinely act as an artery of commerce, but also development and sustainability. Now, the second part, which I want to highlight very quickly, is the size of the problem. Now, if anybody who is having food while listening to this, I suggest you stop, because I'm going to spend about 2 minutes perhaps sharing something that is not very palatable. You can find this on my LinkedIn. I've done a calculation about 6 months ago, and about, just to understand, because, people don't understand the severity of the problems at certain places of the Ganga and how much the community is involved in this. So if you take the data which the government puts out on Clean Ganga, and I'm going to take February 2021 because that's the one I used at the time, and you take the pollution levels measurements, and I'm going to take one figure out of the 4 because that's the easiest for people to understand. And this is measured February 2021 at Nizamuddin, so very much a place where most people are familiar with. And this is the fecal chloroform matter measured in mpn per 100 ml, right? And one of the big things that universities and colleges can do is we can sort of try to translate these numbers into what it actually means for people. So I'm going to attempt that in 1 minute. Essentially what this means, and I'll leave the number calculations, you can find my LinkedIn and see the post, but swimming in February 22 at Nizamuddin, at that point in Ganga, if you were to jump in to the Ganga at that point, is the equivalent of swimming in a swimming pool. Imagine you are swimming in a swimming pool where 122,500 people or animals have defecated in, and they have left floating almost 5 lakh pieces of feces. That is an astronomical number that measures. But what does it also mean? I think if you look at those insane numbers, and that's just one measurement site. I must say, by the way, this is one of the higher ones. Different parts of the Ganga are polluted at different levels, right? We are not going to solve this problem by simply saying that, hey, let's do better wastewater management at the community level. Let's shut down illegal industries. But this has to be a community-led effort. We have to bring everybody together, and we have to explain the personal impact them, their families, their communities are having on the river. A lot of this is really in terms of wastewater management. It is very expensive to do this at a state level, at a national level. And so what's very interesting is trying to bring communities together around Ganga, getting students involved and seeing how can we find the points at which all this wastewater in our communities, it's very nice to talk about, oh, so-and-so is doing this, so-and-so is doing this. But if we are living in a city which has the Ganga going through it or a tributary, what is our impact on it? And how can we get together to manage this wastewater in a better way? So it's not just about industry or people, but it's finding an ecological solution to what we can do. The third point which I want to say, and I think Meenaji will appreciate this, the way I'm putting it, fundamentally cleaning the Ganga is apart from being a industrial problem, a infrastructure problem, a social problem, is an energy problem. The biggest cost of managing wastewater, cleaning rivers, running sewage systems is energy. And I think part of this is really, I'm grateful for the Indian government on the major push we are trying to put on getting as many different sources of energy, oil, gas, renewables, solar, all of this in. And I think being very conscious that this is not going to be easy. If we want pure drinking water, if we want a clean spiritual river, if we want commerce, if we want economy to grow, our energy needs in managing wastewater is going to grow. And this is where universities can step in. Right now, the cost of running wastewater plants at large micro and large micro is very high. And being able to research new ways where smaller community wastewater plants, which are driven by sustainable source of energy, can come in, that is something will truly move the needle on how we can do it. The last I want to say is that we need to look at awareness from all types of view. I've talked about why it's so important. We have to teach people that the benefits they will get by having a clean Ganga next to their house, next to their business. It's a massive economic benefit apart from a spiritual, social, civilizational benefit. Second, we have to teach them that it's not just about some textile mill or some small micro industry putting water in. It's literally human animal feces and all going through sewage plants. So how can we make sure that the wastewater going from our house, our industry, our village, our community is being handled in a particular way? Because otherwise it's going to end up in the Ganga, particularly for most large cities which have a connection to the waterway. The third is understanding that we need to come up with new solutions, both at the macro level, but more importantly at the community and micro level, which is, effluent treatment plants, wastewater treatment plants that smaller communities or industries can install in a very cost-effective manner. This combined with sustainable sources of energy, because the maximum cost is the running of these plants rather than the one-time cost, is how do we create new innovations that you can have an India-centric approach of effluent treatment and wastewater management. Bringing this together with communities that actually live along the Ganga, I think students have far more credibility than large governments, corporations and all in really going and educating people there. And so I'll pause there. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I look forward to hear from our students.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aditya Berlia, co-promoter of Apeejay Education, New Delhi. And as you have said, if I take a cue from what you have said, you have harped upon 3 points. One is community-led development, movement, sustainable energy management for wastewater management, and also creating awareness. And there also, students and university can all come together to play an important role. Thank you so much, Mr. Berlia.
Just making sure that people understand the impact of humans and individuals. Right? Whenever I talk about clean Ganga, right, they think these are chemical companies polluting, they are these small businesses all polluting. But the fact is, when you have 5 lakh fecal matter swimming per swimming pool in parts of the Ganga, that's a human problem. It's not so much an industrial problem, and that means it's our problem.
Absolutely. I think it's a human problem, social problem also. And that's why we have to create that ecosystem. We have to create that awareness program within us, the stakeholders, the citizens of the country, to make Ganga, Nirmal Ganga, more Nirmal Ganga. Thank you so much, Mr. Aditya. Let's have a perspective from Dr. Sujata Sahi, Vice Chancellor of IILM University, Gurugram. Your thoughts on this, ma'am? Over to
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Mr. Sobi. And first of all, I would like to thank APAC News Network for giving me this opportunity to share my views on such a relevant topic, igniting young minds and rejuvenating rivers. I think we all grown up with an old say. Or before I move, and my special thanks to Sri Meena and other eminent panelists who are present here with their own views regarding rejuvenating rivers. We all grown up with an old sage, Jal hi Jeevan hai. Now, we all understood and felt the importance of water in our life. We all are thankful to our government, Honorable Prime Minister, for launching the project Namami Gange and reaching out to millions of people, sensitizing them through this project. I think the realization about rejuvenation of rivers not only associated with the prestige and image of the country, but also with the self-respect and dignity of Indians. I'm just taking one point which Mr. Berlia right now said. I am from Bihar and I know we have a very auspicious puja, Chhat Puja, which always being conducted in rivers. And the way we are offering puja, and the way the defection, everything floating near around, that is like a very, very painful situation. And now it is high time for our young generation to understand the place of rivers in our life and the role they play not only in our lives but for generation to come. And regarding this uh, clean and protect water, I have few points related to what treatment of water. One is physical water treatment, biological water treatment, chemical treatment, and slush treatment. These are certain ways to treat mechanically or with the help of government and others. But what I would like to say, because Mr. Berlia talked a lot and given us a very, very important aspects regarding this Swachh Ganga or rejuvenation of rivers. But here I am talking being a person of psychology, and it's my urge to everyone and especially young minds to work on social and behavioral change. How? Through communication. And here, the role of educational institutes and young mind, young generations that can play a vital role. There is a way that behavioral change, social and behavioral change, there is a way, there is a tool, communication. It could be like we have a various ways of communication, starting from typical, which our grandparents did, storytelling, to give the importance of our Pavitra rivers, Ganga, and the way we are worshipping our Ganga. This one is one traditional way to change the behavior of human beings, storytelling. Then our students can take a multiple role by creating, sensitizing awareness about rejuvenation of rivers. No, Karnataka, participation of people through localized workshop. We have n number of ways to sensitize people. One aspect, our government is taking n number of steps to clean the rivers. But what is our role being a responsible citizen of our country? That is very important. Face-to-face interpersonal communication is again instrumental in changing mindsets and behaviors. Already we know the defection, and these are certain, like we are able to work on it, and we have probably stopped are going to stop this defection in open fields by women. That I know we have data, government has presented data also. But how we can sensitize, how is a challenge, and especially I have an urge to everyone that we need to communicate and sensitize. Educate target audience with key primary messages and material developed, adapted under the regional workshops. We can develop a cadre of trained and highly motivated local youth. We have to involve local people because India is country of villages and majority of population stay in rural areas. We need to establish institutional mechanism at different levels of the project, support, guidance, transparency. And I can share one example we did in our university, Jal Kranti. And we went to villages, our students, they went to villages just to sensitize people about importance of water in our day-to-day life, starting from food to everything. So we created a Jal Kranti kind of thing, and we went at different places. We have enough ways to educate and target, but we have to take initiative, accountability to this for this work. I think entrepreneurial and now few entrepreneurial mindset and innovative ideas are also coming to clean our rivers. That competition can be organized, and we can re-establish of the lost flora and fauna in the river banks and catchment areas. State program levels, we can involve other stakeholders. So many ways we have, but I just want to, like the way I think you said, okay, we have to listen to our young minds who are present as a panelist in this conference. I just want to, like, one message social behavioral change we have to give focus. And now the success story depends not only on government, but on a combination of the ability of public bodies to make effective systems and the public in adhering those systems. So this one is like, I just want to communicate this one to all of you. I'm also willing to listen and learn from our young generation, which can be implemented in better way. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shujata Sahi, Vice Chancellor of IIM University Gurugram. And as you have rightly said, that there has to be some initiative, but that those initiatives has to be backed with accountability, which is a very important part you have raised. And as you have said at the end of your speech, that it's about all coming together and making this Jal Andolan a Jan Andolan, a people's movement. And I think Mr. Aditya was also talking about that we have to make the community and citizens all come together. It's not only government's job to make Namami Ganga and Nirmal Ganga, but it is all it is everybody's duty that we all come together, do our bit to make rivers clean, to keep the rivers clean, focus on wastewater management, also other aspects of regenerating rivers, and the river should flow according to its will. So we should allow that. Thank you so much. So from Delhi and Gurugram, let's shift our focus to the beautiful state of Uttarakhand. And we have with us Professor Naveen Singhal, Dean and Coordinator of Center of Excellence for Law, Land, Air and Water, DIT University. He's joining us from Dehradun. We welcome Professor Singhal. Your thoughts on this, that how universities and government can all come together to play an important part to build up that sustainable wastewater management ecosystem. Your thoughts on that, sir?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. We can hear you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. You can, sir, wait a minute. Good afternoon. Yeah, now you can see me well?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Shavik, for inviting me for this good discussion with the student. As you know that I have already mentioned, I am the coordinator of my Center of Excellence, Land, Air and Water, on which I am working since last 2 years on the quality of water in Uttarakhand. Basically, we are working on the sewage water that is coming out inside the river Ganga from different places from Haridwar to different area of Rishikesh also. And what I have seen that, because the student is here with me, so I want to say one thing to all the students. If all my young leaders will be associated with this project, Namami Ganga, hopefully we will get a great success. The main theme of all of us is to maintain the Nirmalta, may call Nirmalta of Ganga water. So how it can be maintained? Basic problem in the water that is flowing from, may call from Rishikesh, Haridwar to Kanpur. Basic, that is the sanitization. Some data I have with me, which I have also done in my work in the laboratory of my Land, Air and Water. The water quality, basically, I have done a work from 2017 to 2020, and I have checked several parameters of water, and we see that the seasonal to interannual variation occurs, which are primarily dependent on the flow of water in Ganga. These are the parameter. And another thing is the local sewage mixing and open defecation by floating population in near Haridwar and in the vicinity. I have seen this one thing. You know that in this year, last year we have done a Kumbh, when the number of pilgrims increases in Haridwar, then the quality of water will also decreases, or you may call it the deficiency or the impurity will added inside the Ganga water. But it is seen that when you will come from Haridwar to Kanpur, there is a lot of quality parameter change from Haridwar to Kanpur. What quality parameter changes occurs? The water near Kanpur is very much intoxic as compared to Haridwar. That is just because of that there is a very high industrialization in this area. So I request all the agencies because I got a chance to speak in this forum. So I request all the agency when some industrialization will start in the basically at the river bank of Ganga river. So you may please I request issue the license, we call it the survey report, should be approved after seeing the proper sanitization of water, how the water will be treated inside the factory, and after treatment, what content of water is going simply to the river water. Because there is no facility if anyone say I am doing this type of treatment of water and this is will be used in different purpose of say flowering, gardening, washing, but it is not going on in actual things. We have survey so many areas in Uttarakhand and outside Uttarakhand also, some part of water is going inside the river Ganga, and this water is in the form of very, you may call it not a good quality. That should be adjusted by our agencies. We have to plan a scenario, or we have to target a content parameters for mixing the water inside the Ganga. The role of young mind is that they should elaborate their theory, or they should tell the all students, all the young minds, how you will participate in cleaning Ganga. I have a very good eco task force in my university. That eco task force basically taking a live webinar in every month with the villagers or the people who are living near Ganga. So I may send this message from this platform to all the young minds. You have to come in front of this and participate in monitoring the quality of water. My laboratory will provide or will tell you everything, how you will check the quality of water and how will you train the people for not contamination of this Ganga water. In the last, I will tell one thing to all of you. Mr. Meena is also with us. We have to arrange this type of live sessions with the people who are living at the banks of Ganga, and we should select these peoples and train them how you will cooperate with us and how you will motivate the students and the villagers, or you can residents, to for the not contamination of this Ganga water. Thank you from my side, and if there is any query you can ask.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Naveen Singhal from DIT University, Dehradun, for sharing your thoughts with us. And as you said, we are all waiting to hear from the young minds, and we have young minds with us along with the expert from the National Mission from Clean Ganga. We have with us Mr. Rajat Gupta, Senior Waste Management Specialist of NMCG. Welcome, Mr. Rajat Gupta. And also we have young minds. We have Isha Kullar from Chitkara Business School. We have Akanksha Mittal MBA Finance from Chitkara Business School, and also Sneha Jaju from Apeejay Star University, and Hiya Bhattacharya from Apeejay Star University. But before that, we also have a guest from the state of Rajasthan. We have with us Dr. Shrihari Prakash Honwad, President of Sir Padampat Singhania University. Dr. Shrihari, welcome you. Your thoughts on igniting young minds, rejuvenating rivers, especially when we talk about wastewater management, and how universities, students, government, civil society can all come together and work on this mission. Your thoughts on that, sir? Dr. Shrihari, if you can unmute your mic, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Souvik. And I must, at the outset, thank APAC for this wonderful opportunity, not just for speaking, but to listen to so many interesting views. Experts and thinkers we have managed to get together here. I would like to start my views from a couple of examples. Unfortunately, from outside India. One is around Europe, where this river Rhine, which passes through Germany, uh, it passes through multiple countries for that matter, and I think it passes through 9 countries if I recall correctly, and they have managed to clean it up eventually, and they're maintaining it clean. Another example is that of Thailand, where not water but the overall cleanliness in the country, how they did it. Thailand, I'm told, they took it to the schools first, and they taught all the children that any dirt we throw anywhere, be it water and be it on the land, is going to cause problems. So the children started, harassing their parents whenever they had this tendency of throwing something out. And the children what they would do is, every time they would see something thrown on the road, they will immediately pick up, bag it, and then present it to bring it to the school, saying that so and so, my father had thrown this, I'm bringing it here. And this created a generation which was cleanliness conscious, and then they didn't have to do anything. The older generation had to behave, because these were children. You can't even you can't shut them up. So the older generation learned the hard way to behave, and this generation continued to give the values of cleanliness down the line. I think we really need to get all our youngsters, those who are in schools, preferably those children who are in KG, get them understand how important water is for us. And it's not just when we say Namami Gange, it does not mean only the Ganges needs to be cleaned up. Everywhere, particularly in the state of Rajasthan, I see while we have our own share of rivers, we rely so much on lakes, and maintaining the quality in lakes is much more difficult compared to a river, because river, by virtue of its flow, can reoxygenate itself, and the reoxygenation process will help it clean itself. Lakes do not have that facility. Lakes are not flowing. You will have a quick eutrophication in lakes, as we have seen in case of the famous Kashmir Dal Lake, where at one point of time we have all been told that the aquatic life could only live up to 4 feet from the surface. Below that, it was just not possible to have good aquatic life. That apart, I think we must really make sure that the root is nipped in the bud. It's easy to recommend how do we clean the rivers. Yes, There are multiple ways. You create those cleaning stations. You create those help the rivers and the lakes with additional cleaning this thing. But unless the man stops adding to the problem, this problem is never going to be solved. I think we must go back and see how we can make it a culture, and young minds are the ones who can help us do this. They will be the ones, once you give this value to the youngsters, they will make sure that I and you do not cross the line. Every time we cross, they will have absolutely, the millennials will have absolutely no hesitation in pulling you up and telling you, irrespective of who you are, no, this is not done. Please stop doing that. We do use water for industry also. We really need to get these youngsters to become our conscious keepers, because one simple motivation to the youngsters is, look, this is the water which you will need to use when you as you grow up, and we have already spoiled it. This is what we are going to leave it for you. I'm sure the youngsters would buy it very quickly, uh, and I'm sure we would have created an entire generation in the country who are going to be cleanliness conscious, who are going to be environment aware, and who are going to make sure that wherever there is a violation of these norms, they will take it up, and they will even be bold enough. They will also have the strength in them to lobby for eradication of any such practices which today persist. And many of us older people, we feel, oh, what can the industry do? Industry will have to use it. Is it going to remain viable if industry has to spend so much more on cleaning up the water? Let's look at some of the examples. RCF in the city of Bombay, in Chembur, they buy sewage water from BMC. They buy sewage water from BMC, and way back in 2002, I believe the rate was something like per gallon they paid, if I recall correctly, something close to 9 rupees. I don't know. Maybe I got this thing wrong, but that's the kind of money you need to spend. And they used to buy that sewage and convert it into processed water. And whenever we used to visit RCF plant, the person who was in charge of the treatment plant would show us first the sewage which was coming in, and show us where the processed water was being stored, and he would dramatize it by simply picking up a glass of water from that stream and drink it in front of us. I don't know whether we really need to do that, but this is what we may have to do tomorrow if we do not help our rivers clean themselves up, and if we do not create a generation with a different set of values. Today, I'm sure many people would have talked about, you go to Haridwar, more than the pious dip in the Ganges, what you remember is the stench of defecation and other things, and that's something which we really need to change. And of course, it's easy to blame the government, saying that government should create facilities so that so many people who visit should find a way of defecation. I'm sure some planning will help, but the fact of the matter is that in spite of any planning or any this thing we do, we have a generation who is very happy, discharging night soil directly into the water, and since it's a flowing water, we we are thinking it will all go away, and it will not be noticed. I think we must really change that thought process in generation. And my point here is, uh, we must go to the schools and we must build this consciousness amongst our children, who we should start possibly at the age of KG, nursery, or even first, second, third standard. That's the most impressionable age. I know schools which teach these children how to wash their own underclothes, to tell them that these are the things which you need to keep clean by yourself. I think that we need to go a few steps ahead of that and make them aware that anything we throw, even on the road, is going to come back and harm us in some form. I believe we as a generation, especially my generation and the older generation, we have failed in our duty. We have failed in our responsibility. We have failed in the environment which we borrowed from our future generations, and we are going to return it to them in a very spoiled spoiled form, and help them clean. I think the least we can do is tell them, look, we did bad, help us correct ourselves, but make sure you correct it yourself, because while we are returning the environment back to you, we are returning the resources back to you, you are also essentially effectively borrowing it from your future generations. I'm not sure how much more time I have, uh, but
I think we can end here, sir.
yeah, this is the essence of what I wanted to convey. If there are any specific questions, we can take up. I'm sure we have had experts who have told us how to clean up the rivers, but I would only point out that during the lockdown, during the very first lockdown, I'm sure those who visited Haridwar would have seen the bottom of the Ganges River for sure. After just 3 months of zero activity, the river cleaned itself like nobody's business. And of course, we are now today back to square one. That's our necessity to utilize the resources. Unfortunately, we don't just use the resources, but we also abuse the resources. That's what I'm trying to point out at. Thank you
Right,
very
right.
much for giving me this opportunity. I hope I have made some point which others may not have made it. I feel very strongly, particularly coming from Rajasthan, for us any water resource is very, very important. And I'm seeing that so many water resources, they are being, even in the cities and outside the villagers, the way they handle the water resources, it's really worth seeing how careful they are as to where they draw the water and what they discharge into these. There are communities which have burdened themselves with this responsibility of ensuring that the water remains clean.
Right, sir. Right.
I once again thank you for this opportunity. Uh, please,
Thank
please
you.
take over, and if there are any questions, I would be very happy to come back.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Shrihari Prakash, Honwad, President, Sir Padampat, Singhania University, Udaipur, for raising a very pertinent question that's not about only about university students. Why don't we start the process in the schools itself, from the very early stage of the school students in schooling, where we teach them what is right, what is wrong in terms of water management as well. Very important point raised by you. And as you have said, it's not only about government working alone and citizens come working there. All have to be done together. Government, citizens, all have to come. All stakeholders have to come together.
Everybody is a
I can give an
stakeholder. Thank
example. I
you.
can give you an example. You're talking. Give an example of water waste management. If you visit certain hilly states in southern India, in those cities, hilly cities, you are not allowed to use plastic, and you are not allowed to mean plastic means no means no. Even not even single shop owner uses plastic, and they don't allow the tourists to enter that hilly station with plastic carrying in that. So if there is a will, there is a way. Again, it's not only about government enforcing the rules and regulations, but citizens, stakeholders all coming together to make it a reality. Thank you so much, Dr. Shrihari Prakash Honwad. With this, I'll request Mr. Rajat Gupta, Senior Waste Management Specialist, NMCG, to hand over the session, to take over the session for the interaction with the young minds, for which we all are waiting for last few minutes. So we have with us Mr. Rajat Gupta from NMCG, and we have young minds Isha Kullar, Akanksha Mittal, Sneha Jaju, and Hiya Bhattacharya. Over to you, Mr. Rajat Gupta.
So without wasting time, let us get into the questions that you might be having. So let us get into it.
Right. So, Najib ji, with your permission, everybody's permission, we can ask students to ask that question. We can start with Isha. Isha Kullar. She's a student of MBA Finance from Chitkara Business School. Isha, your question.
Good afternoon, everyone. So my question is, how is India following a decentralized water waste management system, mostly in those rural and remote areas where a centralized sewer system is not visible?
Well, Isha, you are perfectly right, because in all the places we really cannot have the typical sewage treatment plants. We really need to get into those kind of a decentralized kind of a sewage treatment plants, particularly in rural areas or maybe outskirts of the cities, those kind of cities. NMCG in particular is also looking at this particular issue, wherein we are also looking at developing maybe a fecal sludge treatment plants for the rural kind of a setups, wherein you don't have much of a water generation, wastewater generation. At the same time, you don't have network, etc., so that you can really divert that particular wastewater treatment plant. So this is one stream that we are going to take up in a big way now, fecal sludge management systems, wherein we are going to collect the fecal sludge directly from the households, and then put up a sewage treatment plant or fecal sludge treatment plant, a shorter one. So that is one that we are already getting into. Apart from that, we are also getting into constructed wetland kind of a systems, wherein we have already taken a few projects, and let's see how it pans out. But then, yes, we are looking into the constructed wetlands, fecal sludge management options, particularly to handle the wastewater from the rural setup and village setup kind of a things.
Right.
I can just add one thing quickly for you, Isha. So you also have to understand the ecosystem of the problem. One of the best things that has happened for India in the last 3-4 years has the government pushing off against open defecation, right? So now we are building toilets in villages. We are sort of building that infrastructure for the first time of hygiene or basic hygiene all across India. Fantastic for India, health, sanitation, everything. But the problem is that with that infrastructure, we've not gone into localized sump tanks. We haven't explained to people how to create sump tanks, sump infrastructure, piping, sewage, and localized treatment. What is really giving me a lot of faith is that in the last 5 to 10 years, we have an extraordinary amount of work being done on micro ETP plants. And so for a decentralized thing, apart from what the excellent work that the government is doing, it's also bringing entire villages together to say, hey, let's together figure out a way, just how we figured out a way to get solar energy or cooking or gas or kerosene. Now we have to work on the waste part. We have these toilets, we're using them, but where does that waste go? Too much push has happened on it's open defecation. It's not. Basically bad sewage infrastructure and treatment. And I'm fairly confident that those solutions exist. We just have to get people activated and go to them to do it.
Just to add here regarding your question, I think There is a gap between our projects which government has initiated and the people where that project and communication needs to be reached. So there is a huge gap, and people are not still aware about consequences of these problems. They can talk about, but the gap, the kind of project government has initiated, that needs to be informed, communicated to rural people, and in a better way, rather than just like project launched or till government officials. But here I personally felt it's not reaching to the right people, and the consequences of these things which are happening around us, that is also not reaching. So my request to government is at least some communication channel, or youth, they can go and sensitize people about the consequences of these things. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, point well noted.
Let's-
Yeah.
Can I say something, sir?
I will also like to add in this what Professor Sujata
I'll
Shai has
request
suggested.
all the panelists that we don't have much time, because this section is especially meant for young minds, the young students. So if you let them ask the questions, then we have time. Then we can ask the question, if you don't mind.
I would like to add just a little to my 2 bits to this. Give me one sentence to be added.
Okay.
In our olden days, it was the trees which also cleaned up the water which flew. Which was flowing out of our houses, and we must encourage those kinds of trees whose roots would absorb most of these nutrients and release, clean up the water. This is a technology which is utilized, and especially in rural areas where the quality and the quantity of waste also will be very different from what urban waste generation is concerned. Encourage these small villagers to make sure that along the water bodies, plant these trees, which will also add to cleaning up of water through a very natural and sustained process. That's why I said it's not just one agency who can do. It's not just the government who can do, and it's got to be a citizen charter which will have to do it. Thank you.
Right, right. Thank you so much. Let's have a second question from another young mind, Akanksha Mittal. She's again doing MBA Finance from Chitkara Business School. Akanksha, your question.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. So my question is, sustainability assessment for wastewater treatment system is very critical in all the developing economies. So how are we following the sustainability best practices in India?
Are you looking at sustainability means economic sustainability?
Yes, sir.
Well, economic sustainability is fine, but then right now with the Ganga mission, what we are looking at is, instead of economic sustainability, the more important or more pressing is how fast or how soon we can really get into the cleaning up of the river. If you really look into the sustainability aspects, then certainly I'll not be able to really put up any sewage treatment plant or any kind of a system at this particular point of time. And that is the reason why we have really taken up even supporting operation and maintenance for the STPs on a 100% funding basis to the states. So even for 15 years. So right now the objective is very clear that we need to get our act together to get our rivers clean at this particular point of time. And in the meantime, we are also looking at developing those kind of a proposals wherein we can really make some kind of a revenue streams out of it also. So we are also looking at really generating how do we really recycle our wastewater, how can we value our wastewater after treatment, can we recycle it? There are certain projects, because right now the wastewater after treatment to some extent is being used into the agricultural sector. At the same time, as we have already listened to one of our panelists who is indicating that in Pune, even the wastewater, treated wastewater is being now supplied. Sewage is being purchased and then used. So we are also looking at developing maybe one kind of in this meantime, that some recycling network, recycling policy at a national level needs to come up, wherein the treated wastewater is being valued and it is being put to use. So that's one aspect. Apart from that, we are also looking at taking out certain other byproducts from the wastewater, maybe gas generation, energy generation. Then from sludge, we are also looking at if we can generate some energy out of it, if we can also put up some brakes, or if it be used in cement kilns as a alternate fuels. So these potential opportunities are also being looked at, but it is too early to really look into that these initiatives are going to be self-sufficient or the project is going to be economically viable, particularly in the Ganga belt, wherein the water is really available to a large extent and the users are really at a much larger distances, wherein the possibility or economic really aspects of that wastewater reuse may not be that viable at this stage. So, but certainly we are looking at into a future perspective and trying to develop these kind of a policies and see how it turns out. We would look forward to your also views or maybe working onto these aspects.
Right, right. Thanks, Akanksha. Thanks, Mr. Rajat Gupta again. Let's have a question from Sneha Jaju. She's a student of BTech in Biotechnology from Apeejay University. Sneha, your question to sir, please. Sneha, can you hear us?
मीटिंग चल रही है.
I think her video is paused. So let's have a perspective from Hiya Bhattacharya. She's a student of integrated biotechnology from Apeejay University. Hiya, your question to sir, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My question was that what is the industrial applications? Like, how can we apply wastewater management treatment at an industrial level in a country like India? Like reusing the treated water, the water that has been treated, reusing it at an industrial level.
See, you are looking at the wastewater reuse in industrial applications, basically, right? See, this is happening to a large extent in many of the industrial sectors even today, right? We are also having a lot of standards wherein we are trying to put up a limit on water consumption to the industries in different sectors. Right? So that is one part which is really happening. A lot of states have already come out with the guidelines on reuse of wastewater in the industries. Even states are providing incentives to the industries for reuse of this wastewater. At the same time, in Ganga mission, looking at the wastewater reuse, wastewater from the sewage, if you would like to reuse it into industrial applications. So this is also coming up, but then in one of the projects that we have already taken up in Mathura, sewage treatment plant has been put up, and this treated wastewater will be treated tertiarily to the tertiary level, and then this wastewater is going to be supplied to Mathura refinery, right? And its O&M cost, etc., will be borne by the Mathura refinery completely. So as far as application of treated wastewater in industries is concerned, technically it is feasible. There is nothing like that it is not feasible kind of a thing. It can be done. Everything boils down whether it is sustainable to the industries or not, because someone has to bear that cost of treatment to that particular industry level requirement. Right? So we are also looking at this particular aspect when we are trying to develop this policy for wastewater reuse, national policy. So this aspect is also being looked into, how best we can use this particular wastewater in the industries also. Only thing is we need to have that industries also nearby available who can use it. So economic viability is a real issue over there. Technically, yes, it can be done. It is being done in a lot of industries.
Right. I can see on the chat screen that Sneha Jaju has joined, but there is some connectivity issue. But she has is asking her question in the chat section to Mr. Rajat. Mr. Rajat, Sneha's question is that how can decentralized techniques like bio remediation measures help in wastewater management? I think she's trying to connect this in the network.
Bioremediation kind of a work, nothing but maybe some kind of an enzymes which are being used for treatment of the wastewater into the drains. We are using these particular technologies as of now at some places. Reason being, again, the objective right now is to clean the river Ganga or cleaning of those drains. Certainly over the night we cannot really intercept all those drains and then put up a sewage treatment plant. So in the meantime, what we are trying is that to get this bioremediation works also into the picture. So where we are using maybe bioremediation technologies in a lot of drains in UP, Bihar. But then if you are looking at a long-term kind of a dependence on these kind of a systems, because there is no infrastructure development as such over here, right? And it all very much depends upon what is or who is really doing that bioremediation. Even slight variations into the dosing of that systems, variations into the flow in the upstream of the drains, then the kind of a treatment technology or treatment result that we are looking at, it gets affected to a large extent. So as a intermediate solution, till we arrive at a final solution, yes, we are trying to do it. We are adopting bioremediation of those drains. But yes, it cannot be a foolproof solution as of now, because you have got a lot of variables out over there. I hope I clarified, Sneha.
Hopefully she is unable to connect with us, so you can see some network issue. But thank you so much, Mr. Rajat Gupta, along with the young minds, Isha Kullar, Akanksha Mittal, Sneha Jajogia Bhattacharya, for sharing their thoughts. It's quite heartening to see the kind of questions which have come from the young minds. Pointed question to the Senior Waste Management Specialist of NMCG, that is Mr. Rajat Gupta. And I'm sure the deliberations made today, the question and answer, have really helped us to move into the right direction when it comes to creating awareness in the young minds in terms of wastewater management for rejuvenating rivers. At the same time, I'd like to thank Mr. Aditya Berlia, Dr. Shrihari Prakash Honwad, Dr. Sujata Shahi, and Professor Naveen Singhal for sharing their thoughts, being the irrigation leaders, higher education leaders of the country, who have joined us from various parts of the country. And again, the role of education institutions and the government to ignite young minds for rejuvenation of rivers. With this, I'd like to welcome Mohammad Najib Hassan, Senior Corporate Communication Manager of Namami Gange, to give vote of thanks. Over to you, Mr. Najib.
Thanks, Ovik. Today's session has been very fruitful in terms of the questions, the views shared by the panelists, and also the questions asked by the young students from the universities and colleges, and in terms discussion held on particular subjects, which is very important for the Namami Gange program. And it's rightly said that this entire webinar is for enhancing the role of youth and how they can participate, how they can intervene in such kind of programs. And before coming to the formal vote of thanks, I would just like to inform all those who have virtually joined in that for people's participation, especially youth, right now there is one online quiz competition which is going on, which is being organized by Namami Gange. So all those young students, they can log into the portal, that is CLAP portal, Continuous Learning and Activity portal, and they can play online quiz which is having different subjects, different themes which may interest you. And this particular competition is going on and it will continue till 22nd May. So it is having very interesting questions which will enhance your knowledge also, and it will also, if you win, then you can get interesting or very good prizes also. So in the end, I would just like to come with the formal vote of thanks. This was 6th edition of our webinar series, and we are going on from strength to strength. So, sir has joined in for the first time. I would like to thank S.R. Meena sir, our Deputy Director General, so that with his guidance we can move ahead and we can organize such kind of webinars more in this series. All the educational institutions who have joined today, I would like to thank Professor Shrihari Prakash Honwad from Singhania University, Dr. Sujata Shai from IIL University, Professor Naveen Singhal from DIT University, and Mr. Aditya Berlia from Apeejay Education Society. We are very thankful that what views you have shared. Apart from that, I would like to thank all very good questions. They have asked very knowledgeable questions. And I would like to thank my colleague, Shri Rajat Gupta ji. Shri Rajat Gupta ji, and for giving you reply on particular subject that is a very specific subject of wastewater treatment, and it's very vast subject. So in future also, because this is just a beginning, in future also, if you want to know something about wastewater treatment, how NMCG is doing it, how we are building up all these infrastructure, then very well you can connect with us, and we can we would be happy to give reply to you. So before I would just like to inform that DG sir is also joining us right now because he was busy in some high level meeting. So he would be joining and sharing. So I will request you all to stay for next 5 minutes so we can listen to him and get his views also on this particular subject, which is igniting young minds, and also our today's subject that was wastewater management. So just in a moment he would be joining us. Thank you.
And we have been joined by Sri G. Ashok Kumar, Director General of National Mission for Clean Ganga, Minister of Jal Shakti, Government of India. We welcome you, sir. Thanks for joining us today. For last 1.5 hours, we have been discussing on various aspects of igniting young minds for rejuvenation of rivers, especially focusing on wastewater management. Sir, your thoughts, your guiding thoughts for this overall subject.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's a great feeling to interact with young people and also the people who are training and coaching the youngsters and who guide them. So I was told that Mr. Aditya Berlia, co-promoter of the AP Education from New Delhi, Dr. Shrihari Prakash Honwad, President of the Padampat Singhania University, Udaipur, then Dr. Sujata Sahi, Vice Chancellor of IIL University, Gurgaon, and Professor Naveen Singhal, Union Coordinator of DIT University. They have talked, and also our Rajat Gupta from the NMCG also would have given his views on this. So first of all, I will appreciate all of you joining this program for Igniting Young Minds, Rejuvenating Rivers. This is a program which National Mission for Clean Ganga had taken up to see that the water and water-related issues are part of the discussion of the young minds, because generally the youngsters, if they are guided properly, they look and focus at things which affect them and affect their future. But if you are not able to guide them properly, if you are not able to train them in their thinking process, probably they may go awry. So this is water is one issue which will be very relevant for their future, because the amount of water pollution which we see, the amount of water extraction which we see, the issues related to water which we are now facing and threaten to face in the future are all enormous. If you look at it, the impact of climate change affects water best, and the manifestation of climate change is actually is seen in the water sector, whether it is intensity of increased intensity of rainfall, whether it's melting of increased melting snow, whether it's rise in water table in the sea level, etc. All are in the manifestation of the climate change, which is very, very seriously seen in the water sector. And with the large volume of water getting polluted, and more extraction of water from the underground reservoirs, etc., we are in for a big problem, because water security would be one of the major issues in future. So it is high time that we draw back and think and find solutions for that the next generation would not have problem of water. This is something which our generation, I would say our generation, because if you maybe 60s and 70s, probably we didn't have so much of water crisis as we face now. From 80s onwards, we have started facing this water crisis, because we have started exploiting water more and more. And of course, the population has grown up, the urbanization has grown up. These are some of the various factors which have increased the water demand. Nevertheless, we, in the last maybe 10-20 years, have started to face more and more severe threats related to water security. Our more and more rivers and streams are getting polluted. Our underground aquifer is getting dried. Our rainfalls are not following a regular pattern, and sometimes high intensity rainfall comes, and we are not able to store as much water, because the intensity of rainfall being very high, the water runs off very fast, and the old ponds and tanks which used to store a lot of water, many of them have disappeared, many of them have silted up. So the volume of water storage capacity of these tanks have also come down. So, and wherever water storage is there, in most of the places, we have sewage and other dirt coming in, which makes those water also not potable or not good. So the availability or the quantity of available water stored has come down, and wherever to a large extent the water gets stored, that gets polluted because of the sewage and the other litter which we put in there, and so that water also gets wasted, so not available for usage. So this is a major crisis which we are facing, and that's why in the last maybe 5-6 years, we have woken up to this challenge. The government of India, particularly under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi, we have taken water as a very, very key important resource. This is the first time when we have, in 2019, forming a Ministry of Jal Shakti, combining or bringing departments handling water under one umbrella, so that there is a uniform command and decisions are taken. In 2014, if you remember, Pradhan Mantri has started this Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, where toilets were built in large numbers, about more than 10 crore toilets have been built, which means that the pollution which would have otherwise, the open defecation would have otherwise got mixed with the water and would have gone for the pollution of water. So that has to be controlled. So and for the increasing the quantity of water saved, 2021, Honorable Prime Minister launched the Catch the Rain campaign with the message of Catch the Rain, where it falls, when it falls. That also was a big success with the people's participation. Now, coming to today's theme of how to use treated wastewater, this is another way of augmenting the water, because we were so far looking at the natural water available to us from by the melting of ice or from the rainfall, etc. But we have realized that the water which we use every day for the drinking water purposes, etc., or which we use for various industrial purposes, etc., can be recycled, and that can be actually augment a supply to us. So that's where the five or the three famous 3R concepts and the 2 R's which we added to that. The 3R concept of this in the water circular economy is reduce the use of water, recycle the use of recycle water, and we have added 2 more: the rejuvenate the rivers and recover the water from the outputs of the products so that they can be recycled. The last R is the respect for water. We think that if we can impress upon the young minds the need for respect of water, probably all the issues to a large extent of wasting the water and treating the water with scant respect may go, and probably the value of water. The value of water is not the price of water we pay. The value of water, if that can be made in the mind of people, then they will use this water more frugally, more effectively, and more probably in a very systematic and scientific way. Now, coming to this treated water, as I said, we have realized that 80% of the water we take in for the domestic purposes, which incidentally is only about 5 to 10% of the total usage of the water in the country. 85 to 89% of water in India is used in the agriculture sector, and the remaining 11% is used for domestic industry as well as all the drinking water purposes, etc. So the water in the agriculture sector is having a very poor water use efficiency that has to be improved. Now, and that is a separate topic altogether. I'm coming back to the treated water issue. The water which we take every day, 80% of those will come out as as sewage. So, if we can get this water treated and used it for non-potable purposes, or many times for with a higher level of treatment purposes, the water which we are drawing from these sources for other non-potable purposes can be very much reduced. For example, we draw a lot of water for irrigation. If the treated water or the water which comes out of the STP is treated to an extent which is not harmful to the people, and which can be used as irrigation water, the quantity of water which we are used as the used water, which presently we are drawing from the original source of for irrigation, can be reduced. So to a large extent, we can substitute that large quantity of water by a treated water. And as I said, 80% of the water which we take comes back as sewage, and so we can use that water for other non-potable purposes like irrigation, etc. We also can use that treated water for industrial purposes, because industrial purposes, some of them for washing and cooling, etc., do not require very high quality of water or potable standard presently, which we are giving them. So we extract water from the rivers and underground and then use for these purposes. But if this treated water can be used for those purposes, we can save a lot of water. So treated water or safe use of treated water is now a very, very major theme or a stream of thought which is happening in the country. And there are countries like Israel, where 92 to 96% of water is recycled, which means that 100 liters of water they use, Israel normally reuses 96% of water, which means that you are using the same water again and again multiple times. This is the concept of circular economy. This is very important now. This is very crucial for the water security of the nation. So if we are not able to put back the water which we extract from the ground and recharge our aquifer, very soon the aquifers will dry down and you will not have sufficient water for any purposes. There are already cases in states in like Punjab and etc., where the water table has gone down so drastically from 100 to 300 meters to about 400 to 500 meters down. So it is a very huge depletion of water table which has happened, and that can make a major impact on the water security of the nation. So this treated water, as I said, if we can use this water for non-potable purposes, a lot of water substitution can happen. Under the Namami Ganga program also, we are doing more than 164 STPs at the cost of about almost 25,000 crore. That helps us in treating about 5,000 million liters per day. This 5,000 million liters of water, our STPs are capable or has the capacity to retain that much amount of water, which can be used in the non-potable sector. So it's a huge saving. 5,000 million liters of water every day. If we can save it, it will be a very, very major saving of fresh water for us. Not only Namami Ganga, the government of India has other projects like Amrit, etc., where the municipalities are using STP and other technology for treating the sewage and then generating this treated water. So this use of treated water would be a very major important step in water security. In fact, in countries like Singapore, the sewage water is treated to such an extent that it is actually made potable and marketed as a new water, NUWA water. This water probably costs more than the good water because it is 100% pure water. So there are technologies available where we can extract the water molecules from the sewage water and then use this as a very major source of even potable water also. Now, we are not going to that extent, but at least if we can get this water as a drinking water standard, it will be a major environmental saving grace for us. So I hope that all other technology ke baare mein and all other related issues would have been talked by Mr. Rajat Gupta and other people who have mentioned it. I want the youngsters to understand that if you can go for that 5 R's, reduce, reuse, recycle, rejuvenate, and respect water, probably you will have a better future, because your future will depend upon the availability of water, because we cannot survive without water. The water has to be protected, water has to be revered, and water has to be respected, and ensure that you also get good drinking water, as well as your next generation also gets good water for drinking and purposes. So once again, last point I would say, this is a very major source of income also. Treated water is a major source of income for many municipalities. They are also finding that treated water can be gold. This is like turning waste to wealth and generate income for the municipalities. In Namami Ganga, we have now started a program called Earth Ganga, where we want the people to river connect to happen through the economic bridge. That's the Earth Ganga. So one of the key verticals of this is the monetization of sludge and the treated water. So treated water, we view it as a major source for the municipalities, and would be a very, very major source of income to ensure that the sustainability of whatever projects we have taken will happen. So we should discuss more about this. We should make the people understand. And what happens is the change of mindset required. Because earlier, when I was in Singapore, when the new water was launched, the Prime Minister of Singapore actually took this treated water, the sewage treated water, and drank it to make the people understand that this is a good water. There's nothing happy. It's actually a mental block. So we have to overcome this mental block of using the treated water at appropriate level for non-potable purpose, at least to begin with, for washing of car, for lawn purposes, for agriculture irrigation purposes, for industrial purposes, etc. We can start using this treated water, and that can save a lot of our good water which we are unnecessarily wasting now. So I hope that this message of wastewater management would be appreciated, accepted by the youngsters, and they will be more active in convincing the generation to accept this treated wastewater, and also helping change the behavior pattern as well mindset of accepting this treated water as one of the very good alternative for the water which we otherwise waste. Thanks a lot for the patient hearing. And I hope that you continue to join with the Namami Gange's monthly program of igniting young minds and rejuvenation of rivers, because river rejuvenation is another very important aspect of India's concern. You have seen many places the rivers are banned because there's no water which is flowing in. Many of you are from Delhi, you would have seen Delhi Yamuna is black in color, it's polluted. So Namami Gange has taken steps to ensure that the sewage, which is now going untreated into the water, is actually treated and put into the rivers, so that the good flow of water happens in that. And Yamuna, we are hoping that in the next probably 1.5 years, we'll be able to get good water in Yamuna, so that Delhiites can able to see a good Yamuna flowing. And this we have done for the Ganga main river. And many of you would have seen the Honorable Prime Minister himself taking bath in the Kumbh in 2019, and also during the Kashi opening into 2021 December, the Prime Minister taking bath in River Ganga. This is a best testimonial for us, for Namami Gange program, which has been working seamlessly and tirelessly to ensure the treatment of water. So we have succeeded in taking up the treatment of River Ganga. We are now moving on to the treatment of water in the tributaries, and from the experience gained, we are going to the other rivers in the country. So hopefully, in about 5-10 years, we will be able to present the next generation with good flowing rivers, if they are also supporting us in tree plantation, in rejuvenation of rivers, and in not wasting water, which we are now very, very happily doing. Thanks a lot once again for your patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sriji Ashok Kumar, DG of NMCG, for joining us today for the 6th edition of monthly webinar series within the universities on igniting young minds for rejuvenating rivers, and sharing his thought through his keynote address, and also guiding all of us to walk towards that future where we take care of water by respecting water. Do join us for the 7th edition next month. Thank you so much. Goodbye. Take care.